Hi, I'm Omkar. I'm the founder of Cerebranium. We are a learning analytics company headquartered in Berlin, Germany. We have started a podcast with the theme Learning to Learn, where we speak to education entrepreneurs around the world, right from South America, Asia, India, Europe, the USA. We see education being reforged from the ground up, and today we want to speak about this to Juan Manuel Lopera. I hope I got the name right, but Juan is from Colombia, and he's the founder and CEO of Tomi. I'll let Juan explain a bit more about his background and the work that he's doing with Tomi, and we have a very inspiring speaker today, so we're very excited to have Juan speak to us today. So Juan, over to you, and we're really excited to see what we speak about today.
Omkar, thank you so much for inviting me, for having me here today. Actually, you pronounced the name perfectly, so it's very hard for us interacting with people around the world pronouncing their names, but it was very great. Omkar, I'm working in EdTech for 20 years. It was after I finished my high school. I grew up in one of the most violent cities in the world, probably around the world. The people listen about Medellin during the drugs age, when we had like the most violent guy that decided to like colonize the world with drugs, Pablo Escobar. So this was the city he was born up and grew up. And finally, this became Medellin into the city most violent in the world, because we had a indices of murders so high against any other country in the world. And while I was growing up in the city, I just had like the miracle that I found a teacher when I was 12. This was a teacher that inspired me and my classmates to become into entrepreneurs. So when we finished the high school, we didn't have the money for going to the college. However, we had all the motivation from our teacher for creating company. So we created a first company dedicated to make software. We learned how to code by ourselves because once again, we didn't have the money for going to the college. However, we learned how to code. We created a first company, a very basic company dedicated to create any software we thought. But finally, we sold this company when we were 19 years old. We did a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money if you think relatively of the average income our family had. So we sold our company like in $500,000. That was a huge. So we moved out of the neighborhood we grew up, the violent neighborhood we grew up, and we decided to create a company to support teachers in emerging countries, to repeat the same story we lived, the same story that changed our life could be happening millions of times if we motivate the teachers to make innovation in education. So that's the reason when we were just 20 years old, we decided to create Friendly Classrooms. That was our first company, Friendly Classrooms. And Friendly Classrooms basically was just a training process to teachers to teach them how to innovate inside their classroom. This was a company that started with, I don't know, probably $10,000 sales per year. And in less than 5 years, we had $10 million in revenue per year and 350 people working for education in Colombia mainly. But the most important was that we understood what is the real challenge teachers have in emerging countries. So most of EdTech companies are solving the innovation in education issue, but only in connected classroom. However, the 80% of the planet classrooms are not well connected to internet. So, I mean, the connection is poor or they don't have internet at all around the world, probably in Pakistan and India, or even once again here in Colombia, we have a lot of rural areas without internet, or even urban areas with very poor quality internet access. So all the innovation is happening in developed countries. It's not happening in developing countries because we don't have the access to the tools or the knowledge for our teachers making this kind of innovation. So just that for ending this fast introduction, that was the motivation for creating technology for emerging countries teachers that wants to make the difference in their students as our teacher make this huge difference in our life while we was young.
Wow, that's incredibly inspiring, Juan. And I think, we've spoken about this before, but every time you speak about this, it just hits me. We've only seen this on TV, these stories and these images, but having lived through something like that every day, throughout your childhood, and I can only imagine how much it impacts people and how much it shapes them forever in so many different ways. And I think it's a very good reminder of how that one intervention can change the course of an entire lifetime. And that in turn can sort of shape the lives of so many other people in so many different ways. It's just inspiring and just motivational as well to see. And I think one thing that you mentioned about connectivity, internet connectivity, is something that I come from India originally. I'm in Berlin right now. And internet connectivity has been a problem, is still a problem in many parts of the world, in many remote villages. The large cities in India are, of course, well connected. The internet is fast. It's not reliable. So you will have disconnections, you will have things dropping off from the internet. And for the record, and I'm at the risk of also mentioning this on the podcast, Germany also has troubles with the internet, for that matter. So I think this is a very real sort of problem, of course, primarily in developing countries, but also in some parts of, and in many other parts of the world as well. And I think it's a very crucial aspect of sort of building this equitable education of tomorrow, because I think the education of yesterday was perhaps not focused on building an equitable platform or an equitable framework, but the education of tomorrow, powered by the right technology, has the chance to do so. So tell us a bit more about how you're bridging this gap, this technological gap, and empowering the teachers with the right tools that sort of can bridge this gap and help learners come on the same sort of equal footing in their educational journeys.
Just for giving you an initial insight about the result of closing this gap, is that the last year we had 4 million participants in our interactive classes using our technology. And these 4 million participants didn't have internet access. However, they had interactive online classes, like online classes offline, you know? So basically, for telling this as simple as possible, what we did is that our platform, online platform, TommyDigital.com, which is very similar to other platforms like Kahoot or Quizzes or that kind of platforms for creating assessments, but also interactive activities for making like fascinating experience with the content using technology. This platform, besides the website version, we have an embedded version that is able to run over any router. Even we have like a cheap, like a low cost router that we give for free to teachers. So any teacher subscribe to our platform, get a free router with a version of the software embedded inside the device. So when the device get connected to internet through the cell phone of the teacher, or because they went to a park with internet, or a main city with internet, or probably the principal of the school has some internet in their office. So they connect the device to internet, and the embedded version of the platform synchronize all the classes, all the lessons and contents, and all the parameters from students and metrics from students get synchronized up to the cloud and down to the device. So the teachers after that go to the classroom, just turn on the device with a battery bank or connecting the device to any energy plug, and a Wi-Fi connection appears, even if there's not cell phone signal or any other signal, and Tommy simulates there is a Wi-Fi connection. Students connect to Tommy, open their browsers from any devices. So we have devices, I don't know, 20 years old devices connected to Tommy only with a browser. And students start navigating into all the content teachers prepare for the class, or even other teachers shares with this teacher. So it's a huge community of teachers sharing content between them. So teachers can take advantage of teachers from US in India and spreading the content to the unconnected classroom students on their classrooms that are connected to the device. So that's basically what we are doing. Community of teachers creating content and a solution for deploying the content everywhere, even without internet connection.
That is such a beautiful implementation of, like you said, offline, but still digital, technology. And I think it's incredible that you have so cleverly sort of mixed hardware and software together and sort of tried to, it solves so many problems so elegantly. Like one of the problems that many teachers sort of bring up all the time is the distraction that the actual internet can create, the Wild West out there, right? And on one side, that is completely sort of shut off. This demilitarized zone, for the lack of a better term, that you create, where okay, the content that needs to be accessed and is most useful in that context is available and accessible on the devices. Nothing else is. And secondly, like everyone has a seamless experience in person as well, I believe, because I think this combines the best of both sort of worlds. Like you have people and groups in person, learners in person and teachers, but they have, of course, in-person interactions as well as a digital experience, which can completely unlock so many pathways in terms of learning. One question that comes to my mind is, what were the initial hesitations or questions or challenges that you faced when bringing this technology and the solution to the teachers and the schools?
Sure. As entrepreneurs, so you always think about what is the fastest way for getting market. So you think, probably if I have technology and I have an idea in the mind, so probably I should go to the States and create a company for United States schools that has the money for paying for the technology and pay for the subscription and so on. So the main challenge for us was how to improve the world as well. How to, once again, as I told before, how to replicate the same story we lived while we were childs. So that have been, and even it's today, the problem of trying to take our technology to schools where probably the teachers didn't end up their high school. They didn't go to the college, and they're the teachers. So they don't have the skills for using technology, or even they don't have the skills for writing, but they are the teachers in their community. So there is a lack of technology, but also there is a lack of knowledge in the field. So we're trying to change education from the roots. I mean, we're trying to change the mindset of teachers and taking advantage of their willing for or their vocation for changing the life of their students. And we are supporting them for creating content, for sharing content, for building a community of teachers, making transformation in the countries the transformation is needed. So I really think that's a big challenge. Probably that isn't like the most profitable way for going to the market in our case, but that's what gave us like more confidence that we are doing something that really worth for the world.
Right, absolutely. And I think, like you said, the teachers hold the key over here to,
That's right.
changing the face of education. And I think, of course, there's a lot of aspects over here about, how can we take teachers along with, everyone else, the learners and the overall education space. there are many solutions out there that are completely bypassing, let's say, the traditional schooling or traditional institutionalized education. But I truly feel as well, and I fully agree, that I think taking the teachers along with the students and the learners is the most sustainable way of going forward as well, because otherwise there are other gaps that are created that might be harder to fulfill the longer they linger, as they say. Maybe, what I would be interested to know a bit more about is, was there any initial, were there any initial questions that teachers faced? Were they like, oh, this is never going to work, or, our realities, don't really match what this brings to us, and it is going to be hard for us to adapt to this technology and adopt this technology and have our learners adopt it? Were these kind of questions something that you faced initially with the teachers that you tried it with for the first time?
Amkar, fortunately, when we started Tommy a couple years ago, we already had a lot of information from teachers from probably 15 years working with teachers in emerging countries from our very, very first company in tech. So I really think that information gave us like all the right perspective about what teachers need. Probably in the very early stage of the first company, Friendly Classrooms, in Spanish is Aulas Amigas. So in the very early stage of Aulas Amigas, we had some barriers to break. That, like for example, teachers say like technology are going to replace us, or technology is trying to take the students out of the classroom and education will be virtual. Which that couple things were like the two barriers we try to break down all the time. First, we said, and we say today, even after a pandemic, that education, almost as less, the K-12 education never should be virtualized. We're creating, or we're teaching to the new generation of humans, and these humans we want are social humans, persons with the ability of understanding the needs and the problems of the other people around. So what are you doing trying to create a new human that doesn't have like all the sense of what is happening with his friends or something like that? So we really think that the education should be always in-person education. So technology never should to virtualize the education in K-12. That's the first one. And the second one is, as you said before, the teachers are the key. So technology shouldn't be like trying to replace the teacher and has like the premise of teaching better than the teacher. But instead of that, technology should to give like superpowers to teachers to be better teachers and to engage their students and to transform their methodologies and so on. So that's something like the first barriers we got from teachers, and that's our inspiration in the same time. We're trying to give superpowers to teachers, and we are trying to improve the in-person education instead of taking the education to the virtuality.
Absolutely. I think empowering teachers is the key. I 100% agree.
That's right.
Here. And I think, sure, the teachers may not be the experts on the technology side, but experts in technology can bring this, and, you can join hands and sort of shape the future of education together. I think that is a very, valid and relevant thought in the world today, where, I feel like there are two sort of camps, and there's a camp in the middle that says, one says, okay, education can be, completely virtualized, and everything from teaching, learning, doubt solving, question solving, interactions can be virtualized. But we've seen a lot of downsides of completely virtual interactions. Like, I don't know, it's not the most relevant example perhaps, but for example, dating apps. There have been so many reports of people's behaviors changing on after they've been on dating apps because it's so easy to hide behind a profile and not really
That's right.
or lose the ability to be empathetic to the other person. And while in person, perhaps this person might not behave in the same way. But if someone in the K-12 section, where they're learning social skills, where they're learning, how the social dynamics and the chemistry of them as an individual in a group of people and how to coexist and sort of, build a peaceful, harmonious sort of network, virtualizing that is, it's going to be tough. And I think, I personally, from the information that we have so far, I think it's perhaps not the best way to go forward. So definitely, like, how do we find this middle ground? Say yes to technology, but also get the benefits of, let's say, in-person learning and sort of put them together. And like you said, create superpowers that teachers can sort of use to maximize learning outcomes for the learners and on all aspects, really. Absolutely. And speaking of learning outcomes, right. I think, the next question that comes to my mind is, one of the things that we discussed also during one of our last calls was the unique sort of recommendation system for educators and teachers that you've built. So it's like a Spotify-like mechanism where teachers sort of get to get recommendations about what they need in order to personalize the educational journey of each learner. So tell us a bit more about how Tomi does this and what impact it has seen in the operations so far in education.
Omkar, I really think that personalization of education is the main challenge EdTech companies should be focused on these days. And I really think technology, that's the aim of the technologies is how to understand that every people have different interests, have different issues or challenges or ways of understanding the life as well, and each one of the skills they need to develop for their lives. So Tomi is working on it hard. So we really expect to come out with something great for the next year with the metrics we are taking from our classes, lessons teachers are given. So we are learning from each one of the failures of the students, but also from each one of the failures of the teachers while they're trying to teach something. So we take metrics about what are the right answers of the students, and we are trying to take metrics about the emotions teachers are creating in students. We really believe that emotion is needed for creating knowledge. So we are taking metrics of it, and after that, our algorithm using artificial intelligence is trying to generate personalized study plans to students. So just imagine that you just, or your son just went to a class with the teachers, and while they were trying to learn something, so our software is taking metrics to understand the challenges the teachers have, the students have. And once again, our teachers are trying the best with a group of 25, 30. In my case, I had 65 classmates in my classroom. So it's very difficult for a teacher for understanding the individual needs and individual challenge of each one of their students. However, our technology is helping the teachers, is giving the teachers superpowers for individualizing the results and the issues of each one of the students. When students come back to their homes, they're going to have really a study plan related with the results and the performance and their interest, their personal interest, for having, once again, personalized study plans for improving that skills that probably the class wasn't enough for developing on him.
Indeed, and I think it's really beautiful the way you explained it, right? That the relationship between the teacher and the student, the emotion that the teacher is able to create in their students, it's super crucial to sort of facilitate the learning and making sure that the students are encouraged, and they are motivated enough, they are engaged enough to sort of go ahead and complete the learning outcomes, even though it might be a hard subject, even though it might be somewhat of a tough or even a dry subject. Sometimes subjects like accounts or mathematics, or I love maths, don't get me wrong, but there are so many students who find mathematics scary, and that sort of lives with them for the rest of their lives. But I feel like sure, there are certain skills that perhaps learners individually have, personally have, but I feel like the relationship with the subject relies so much on the relationship with the teachers of that subject and the emotion that this teacher creates for that subject for all of their students. And I'm sure all of the learning science people who will be listening to this podcast would agree that there's a lot of research over here that suggests that more than the expertise of the teacher in that subject, the relationship between the teacher and the student is what matters more in fulfilling high quality learning outcomes. So it's really great that you at TOMI are also sort of looking at it from that side. And of course, metrics are a good way to sort of quantify things. They're an approximation, I would say, in order for us to understand a bit more how these things are actually working and to what levels. And I'm sure, there are so many data points that you must have discovered over time, and not only with TOMI, but also with your previous ventures, with the deep experience and expertise that you hold in the domain. So it's really incredible that, you're putting all of these pieces of technology, data analytics, artificial intelligence, recommendations, and the insights that can come from it and make things actionable. I think this is exactly what a superpower is, right? It is something that you cannot do as a normal a regular human that technology does for you in, just a fraction of milliseconds, most likely as well. That's really great to hear.
You make me think in couple of things. The first one is a part of the story that I didn't tell you before about my teacher, is that my teacher was a math teacher. Sometimes he gave me science and so on. It's very common that a teacher has different topics to teach in the classroom. But I don't remember any concept of mathematics the teacher taught me. So he was more worried about to open my mind that just teach me any specific topic or a specific concept of mathematics. So I really think that the main role of a teacher is inspirational beyond just teaching a specific concept. So just that if their teachers listen to us, just remember that your role is inspiring more than just teaching a specific concept. The second one, the better comparison I do about what we are doing, that's the comparison I do about TOMI to my team, is that we try to be like the Iron Man superhero, the Iron Man dress for the normal human Iron Man is. I mean, I like Iron Man because this is a normal human without superpowers like Superman or something like that. It's a normal human, but this normal human has a hardware, their dress, this mechanic dress, and additionally, he has data from Jarvis, the computer that is guiding him for taking decisions. So we try to give to the teachers the hardware and the software to supporting them for taking the decisions about what to do to be that superhero their students are needing.
I think that's a great analogy. I think, you've made it so understandable, whether it's a teacher or if it's a student, about what, services TOMI can sort of bring to the education sector. I think that's a very beautiful and elegant way of sort of summarizing the work that you're doing. Lovely. That's great. Maybe one question a bit more from an entrepreneurial angle, since you've been a serial entrepreneur at this point and you've seen so many things. To the entrepreneurs, to the budding entrepreneurs who may be listening to this podcast out there, what are some things or three pieces of advice, let's say, that you would give to budding entrepreneurs and learners who wish to become entrepreneurs?
There's I'm going to start with something that I realized like probably 6 months ago. I got COVID, and I was in the edge of the death. So I was in ICU for 3 months because of COVID. Almost all my organs failed because of COVID, and I needed 3 months for starting walking again because I lost 44 pounds of muscles, and I didn't walk when I get out of the clinic. And I realized that the most important thing an entrepreneur need to have is resilience. I think that capacity for just forgetting the hard moments we had probably yesterday because I didn't get my goals or something like that, or because I got COVID and I didn't can't to walk. But tomorrow I'm gonna be ready for fighting again. So I really think that entrepreneurs need to be very persistent and need to overcome any hard situation to start again and to like go for their goals and go for all the challenge they have in their minds. So I think that's important. The second one is the team. I really think that it's impossible to be an entrepreneur without a good team. So the capacity for recruiting people, good people that believes what you believe and that has the ability for like being against your ideas in some time, but also to add value to any idea you have and finally create something bigger than what you have in your mind. So I really think that couple things is the most important thing, the resilience and the capacity for recruiting the better team of the world.
Great tips, Juan. And I think persistence as an entrepreneur myself, I see it as well. Like there are times when you feel, I don't feel that, things are moving in a direction that I want them to move in or at the speed I want them to move at. But I think the key is, like you said, to just get up and do what needs to be done, no matter how your mood is or how much your motivation is that morning. And I think that persistence really pays off in the end. And the second one as well, like, with people, like really, having the right people on the team and also empowering them to push back, sometimes your own ideas as well. Like personally, as an entrepreneur, I don't want people who just say yes to everything, because then, where is the value add? We talk about culture fit, but
that's right.
What about culture add and, value addition in terms of ideas, let's say, to the team as well. So I think two very valid points, and I would fully agree with both of them. That's really great. And maybe, one of the final sort of questions for today is what is your future goal? Like, where do you see, let's say, you and Tomi going in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years?
Sure. And sometimes when I say this, some people think we are crazy, but I really think that Tomi is going to transform the way the content are created and curated around the world for K-12. I mean, in most of the countries, I have to say that probably in the entire world, all the contents are generated for big publishers that are like the huge validators of the quality of the content a teacher need for engaging their students. But in our high diversity emerging world situation, I really think that the content need to be adapted to the needs of each one of the students and the need of each one of the regions teachers are trying to engage their students. So the content should be like collaborative generated and with technology curated and by the community curated for finally having so personalized content that no publisher is able to generate in that level or personalization of the content. So what I'm expecting for the next 3 years is that Tomi is going to become the most important producer of content and curator of content for K-12 even without any like official editor working for us.
I think that's an ambitious, but at the same time, a very relevant goal. Definitely, like you said, like today, a lot of the content is controlled, validated, certified, call it whatever you want, by these centralized entities, publishers or institutions, or maybe even departments of the government, for example. But in the end, like I feel like the world is moving towards a decentralized, community-driven sort of a method. There's this whole Web3 movement also sort of going in that direction. But let's not go into that rabbit hole here. But definitely, I feel like if I had to sort of summarize what we discussed right now, it's like goodbye certifications, hello high engagement. Sort of a transformation that you're doing with the content curation using technology and, of course, people. Because in the end, the technology will perhaps recommend content, but in the end, the choices will be made by people, teachers, who are the experts, in the end, who hold the keys, like you said. And it's incredible also to see the scope of your vision as well. And I really look forward to really closely following the journey that you and Tomi are having towards the next few years, and really excited to see how things unfold for the education system and the education landscape in Colombia and beyond. And that's it from my side for today. And I, as a final end to today's episode, I'd like to extend my thanks to Juan and to the whole Tomi team as well to make such huge things possible with such almost impossible to believe, technology capabilities and outcomes, but at the same time grounded in reality on what is really needed and what are really, the needs of the people on the ground, who are the teachers and the learners. So thank you once again, Juan, and it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Omkar, thank you so much to you. I really believe that entrepreneurs that who are doing things for good, not only for money, are the kind of entrepreneurs that are going to colonize like the new generation of enterprise in the world. So thank you so much for having me here, and thank you so much for the work you are doing.
Great. Excellent way to end the podcast over there, Juan. Thank you so much. And to all of our listeners, we'll catch you in our next episodes. So stay tuned and thank you for listening. Bye-bye.